In this video, we're going to be discussing the concept of flow. And to start with, I want you to bring to mind either a professional athlete or a musician, someone that you've seen at their peak performance. If you're struggling to find someone right now, then I'm going to offer Usain Bolt, the Jamaican sprinter, as an example of someone who's repeatedly demonstrated a high level of performance. And in this particular example, I want to bring you back to his performance in 2009, where he broke the 100-meter sprint world record. What were the conditions for him in this moment that led to that particular high level of performance? Well, let's go back into what flow means exactly. So according to Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, flow is an intense experiential involvement in moment-to-moment activity, where attention is fully invested in the task at hand and the person functions at their fullest capacity. So in order to experience this, which has been repeatedly demonstrated to be associated with a high level of performance, but also to well-being, there are optimal conditions, and that's what led to Usain Bolt's particular success in this instance. So the first one is that there was the right balance between challenge and skill. So in order to experience flow, there needs to be just the right level of challenge so that we are actively involved and engaged within the activity. Once we begin to master an activity, we actually lose this sense of flow a little bit. And what we need to do in that moment is actually identify what the next greater challenge will be to keep us actively engaged. However, we also need to be mindful about the level of challenge that we're going to offer ourselves, or perhaps if you're a manager, offering a report. There's a wonderful graph known as the Yerkes-Dodson law, which really highlights the optimal zone for a challenge, where if you're going too hard and too difficult, then the likelihood is that you or a report will actually develop a lot of anxiety around the challenge and won't perform to a good standard. If you're going too low, on the other side, then actually the likelihood is someone's going to be more fatigued or a bit sleepy, a bit more lazy, and that's also not optimal for performance. So again, bearing in mind just the right level of challenge in order to work towards the skill. That's number one. Number two is being able to have a very clear goal and also unambiguous feedback. So throughout Usain Bolt's career, he had a very clear goal. He wants to be the world record holder for the 100-meter sprint, exceptionally high goal. And it also led to a very clear definition about what metrics he needs to focus on. So for him, it was about speed. He needed to crack the 10-second to be able to beat the world record. So that was a very clear goal. And then over the years of training, his coaches were able to offer him unambiguous feedback, very clear feedback that led to him making small changes that would ultimately help him to achieve that goal. So clarity is essential to experience a sense of flow. And number three, one of the conditions is about transformation of time. So being able to create an environment, whether for Usain Bolt that was having this 10-second or perhaps the whole day leading up towards the race dedicated to the mental preparation and physical preparation for that performance, and really giving yourself enough time to not worry about any other worries or concerns or tasks. This is essential. So we think about that in our everyday life. What does that look like? Well, actually, it looks like setting some time aside in our day where we're not interrupted. So no notifications, or perhaps not having other chats available or emails on that may take us out of the task at hand. And if there is a task that we need to work very closely on, this is the best way we can set up our environment for success. So those three optimal conditions for flow are having the right balance of challenge and skill. It's also having very clear goals and unambiguous feedback. And then finally, it's being to create an environment to lose a sense of time. So these are three conditions for optimal flow. And why is it important for us in the workplace to experience this? Well, the first thing is that a flow state actually encourages creativity and innovative thinking. So this is something that we need more and more over time as we become more agile in our working styles and organizations. That's one aspect. But also it helps to dictate how to present information in a much more engaging way. So there's a lot of wonderful research around how flow can be a wonderful model to structure e-learning. And actually that really comes back to the clarity aspect, having very clear goals and very clear feedback. And then when it comes to team flow, so trying to create a cohesion across your team, clarity is one of the most important things there, and keeping it regular and consistent and being able to monitor the level of challenge that the individuals in the team are experiencing, but also the team as a whole, to make sure that it's in the right zone there. So now you know a bit more about flow. The invitation is to take a moment on how to get into the flow. The best way that we can do that is to connect to our immediate senses in our environment. So what you can do right now is take a moment to look around you, to perhaps identify one thing that you see, one thing that you hear, one thing that you smell, one thing that you taste, and then perhaps one thing that you feel physically. And this is one way to drop into the present moment and also to gain some clarity about what's happening for you right now and stepping into the next task in as optimal condition as possible.